Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of The Beer Garden, your landscape industry podcast that lasts as long as it takes us to finish our favorite beverage. Now, if you're sending proposals into the void and wondering why they aren't closing, this episode today is going to be for you. So, we're going to deep dive practical strategies that you can use to improve your close rate and ultimately, close more sales. So, really excited to dive deep today. But before we do that, I'm going to kick it over to my very handsome co host over there, Mr. Brandon Comstock.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jason Hoke. Lovely intro today. I am happy to be here. Let's talk about our beers real quick. I've got another one from Wild Rose Brewing. This one has a cow on it, and as you know, I'm from Cowtown, Calgary, local brewery. This one's called Electric Avenue.
I like that can.
Yeah, it is pretty cool, right?
What kind of beer is that?
Alberta Blonde.
Ooh,
I don't know. We forgot to rate our beer last time. I just realized we forgot to rate our beer in the last episode. I was going to say this beer so far is medium good. I've already cracked it a little bit. So,
All right.
Yeah, they have better beers, in my opinion.
All right. Medium good.
What do you got?
Today, I'm drinking from Outer Range Brewing. This is the Colorado Cuckoo or Colorado Cocoa. I've seen.
I like the colors are pretty cool.
Right? It's pretty sweet. I like the can a lot. So apparently cuckoo or cocoa, one of the two, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I've seen both, is like a French greeting. It's like a friendly way to say hello. So it's like these guys nod between, or it's like their ode to the connection between the Rocky Mountains and the French Alps, apparently, is what I've read. I don't know how much truth there is to that.
What's that? Why are those connected?
I have no idea. But apparently they think that they are. But This is a hazy IPA, hazy India Pale.
You can keep that. Okay, let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So today we're again talking about close rates on maintenance contracts. A lot of these things will apply to close rates on just construction bids or enhancement bids or whatnot. But we're mostly focused on maintenance contract sales. It's kind of early-ish spring right now, and hopefully this episode lands at a really good time for you. We're gonna give lots of great advice today. So quite a few years ago now, probably 6-7 years ago, I would say, I kept losing my bids to price. I would just keep getting the feedback that you're way too expensive, and it was very frustrating. It was like quite an obstacle in my business, and I was a bit earlier on and just didn't really know what to do. I thought kind of the only lever I had to pull at that point was to lower my price. You know, that's like seems pretty obvious. Everyone's telling you you're too expensive. Go to the lowering of the price. So I had a business coach. I had a business coach almost, it was like the second year I was in business, I got one. I don't know what that tells you about how confident I was in my own skill set, but I almost immediately got help. And it did help a lot. So I brought this idea to her. It was Erin from BTA at the time. And what she said was, before you ever consider lowering your price, think of all of the different ways that you can increase your value instead. And we're talking about, perceived value by the customer. So you can think of a couple of examples. Like I'll often use like Starbucks. Like, why can Starbucks charge 3 times more or whatever it is for coffee than, McDonald's or Dunkin' or something?
Or Tim's.
Or Tim's. Yeah, we don't even have Dunkin'. I was trying to Americanize that. So, there's they call your name when they give you your coffee. There's, it's a nicer store maybe, et cetera. So they can charge more money, right? So what are some things that you can do in your business? I ended up thinking on this a lot and talking to a lot of different business owners and contractors. I didn't want to lower my price because I knew it meant for me to still get the same margins. I would then have to probably cut quality. I'd have to cut time. And I knew I did a better job than most of my competitors, or I felt I did a better job than a lot of them. And I just wasn't portraying that to the customer. They couldn't justify the higher price because I wasn't delivering the message. So what I came up with was three things. A really slick proposal document was one. Doing a thorough property inspection and building a report of my findings on their property was the second. And sending a personalized video walkthrough of those two things, of the proposal that I created and of the property inspection that I created. So we're going to go through those three things in detail today and tell you why they're important. And the key thing to keep in mind when thinking of value is it's like don't just start with services delivered, right? Think of a lot of those things I just mentioned are like next to free once they're built, like very low cost. And a lot of them are like one-time projects that raise your value, perceived value tremendously, and allows you to charge what you should be able to charge as a quality contractor, and just really sets you apart from your competitors. So we'll get into all those things today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving those and a few other suggestions as well. But I think it's important when we start here to just kind of define what we mean by close rate. We've thrown that term around a couple times, and very simply, when we say close rate, you might hear some people refer to it as success ratio or sales ratio. Close rate or close ratio is just very simply the percentage of estimates sent that actually convert into sold work. So if I send 100 estimates and 50 of them convert into sold work, then I have a 50% close rate. And the reason this is important is that's like one of the key metrics that reflects the effectiveness of your sales process. And to Brandon's point, I think we oftentimes, a lot of us default to just like, oh, it reflects my pricing either being too high or too low. But I think hopefully the key takeaway here by the end of this episode is no, it's more of a reflection of how good and how effective your sales process is as a whole. There's people out there that are charging more than you and closing at a higher success rate or close rate. So it really is a reflection of your sales process. Higher close rate means less time wasted and lower cost per sale, right? So if I have to generate, you know, 200 leads just to close 50 versus generating 100 leads and closing 50, then I spent a lot more money to get those leads in generally. So it's just your customer acquisition cost goes up. So it's really important. And again, we talked about some of the key metrics that matter there, to help, or some of the key things that you can do to help impact that, like proposal quality. But also, I really want to give a nod here to like the pre-sale process, right? Like targeting the right people, recognizing your ideal customer, and recognizing which bids are going out to non-ideal customers and trying to eliminate that in the future. So that actually, like, I think is one of the first things that I'd like to dive deep on is just the ideal customer bit and like how we qualify for that. And I know you have a lot of good tips for that, Brandon.
Sure. I'll try to live up to that. So first thing is, I think that people automatically assume a very high close rate is something to be proud of. This is kind of weird because, like other metrics, higher is just better or lower is just better, whichever one it is. In this case, you just need to know what it's telling you. Higher might mean that, like, if you're closing 9 out of 10 bids, maybe your pricing is just really, really low.
Yeah.
Your value is really high. So, that could tell you, like, I should experiment with raising my prices, as an example. So a 95% close rate is not necessarily something to brag about, and none of this is. It's just understanding why your rate is what it is, and then you adjust for that, like Jason said. So
Yeah. And really quick to just expand on that, like, and how it impacts your business individually. Like this is individual to your business. So like if
Right.
I'm closing 9 out of 10 proposals and we can't keep up with the work that we're doing, like we're booked out forever and we're like just struggling to keep up with the work, I'm definitely going to consider raising prices, like you said.
Right.
But if I'm closing 9 out of 10 proposals and we still have a long way to go to fill our schedule and a lot of runway, like maybe I'm okay with that right now if I know my margins are where they need to be to cover my expenses. So it is very personal. This like
And there's variables we can't even speak to. Like, let's say that you're in a small town and you're the only guy with a weed control license. Like your close rate's going to be high, you know,
yeah,
because there's no competitors or something, right? So there's a bunch of variables, and it's really just understanding what it is. So one of the things that I think can pollute your close rate is having non-ideal customers, or not understanding or having an ideal customer um, in mind. So what that means is, like, who do you want to target? Who do you want to sell to? Are you a contractor that services single family homes and you're only in high end residential, like you're spending a lot of time on site, lots of work with beds and like precise pruning? Like, is that who you are you just knocking out 30 lawns a day or whatever, and just banging them off? Are you a mix? You want to pick an ideal customer, know who that is, and then you can adjust your marketing, and thus the leads that come through that get converted into estimates, which you're then tracking as your close rate that convert into your sales. So if you're not doing any of that and you don't know your ideal customer, that could really be polluting your close rate. And let's say that you have a 30% close rate and you're really struggling with figuring out how to increase it. Well, what if 70% of the customers, 70% of the estimates you're losing are customers you didn't even want, but you're not tracking your data, right? So imagine that same scenario if you did have an ideal candidate, or I'm sorry, ideal customer. I'm mixing it up with recruiting. You did have an ideal customer and you marketed properly, and almost every estimate you sent was to an ideal customer, and then instead of 30% you were at 65%, right? Like that's a cleaner close rate, and then it's much easier to take action on because you know how you can tweak your marketing, you know how you can tweak your pricing for that ideal customer profile. Do you think that came across clear, Jason? That was a lot
yeah.
of yammering.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's clear. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I think
Uh,
it would help to understand, like maybe give me an example of your ideal customer
okay.
at your landscape
I
company.
would love to. I would love to. So, um, our ideal customer is multifamily. So we only service multifamily. That's apartments, townhomes, HOAs, condo complexes, basically, and only large ones. And then only ones that are nearby or other ones. So it's like your niche is, I guess, another way to look at ideal customer. So that's ours. So our marketing, all of our messaging is towards those individuals that would have those contracts. Any opportunity that lands in our sales pipeline, the first phase of which is to qualify in or out a deal, anybody that lands in there that's a single family home is qualified out immediately.
Mhm.
Anybody that lands in there that's a commercial bid, qualified out. We don't do that. Anybody that's a small apartment, we don't do that, qualified out. So once they go from qualified to the building and sending an estimate stage, all that's in there is ideal customers. So then the percentage of those that convert, of course, is, any losses we can really track and understand. Is our pricing too high? Or whatever the case may be. So yeah, that's mine. Why don't you explain yours as well?
Yeah. So as you know, we serve both homeowners associations and single family homes, but they're the same ideal customer in our mind. So our ideal customer is single family neighborhoods, where the average income is $100,000. Average individual income is $100,000 or greater, and they have the same archetypes. So we'll serve both the homeowners association themselves within that community and the single family homes, but it's this, they share the exact same qualities and are in the same locations, right? So there's certainly, like you kind of alluded to, there's geographical like limits to our ideal customers. In fact, we narrowed it down to specific neighborhoods, not even just zip codes, but neighborhoods within those zip codes. And it's based off of the average income, it's based off of the home types, it's based off of, we've even figured out like certain qualities that, like, even within our ideal client range, like the ones that are like our ideal clients, like the ones at the very top of the list, for whatever reason, weirdly, neighborhoods that have like a big sense of community, that typically have like a
Those are the
brewery.
lobster properties, right, Jason?
Yeah, that's a
No,
lobster property.
you and
Yeah.
JB call those the big wins. They call lobster properties because they get a lobster dinner if they win the big HOA.
Yeah, we
I
put
always
a
like
we
that.
put at the beginning of the season when all our bids come in, and we identify the lobster properties. We write the name of those properties up on the whiteboard, and when we close one of those properties, we get to go out for a lobster dinner. JB and I do. So
Nice. One day we'll
uh,
tell you about the baloney properties, but that's for another
yeah,
time.
that's a whole nother episode. That's the ones we qualify out very quickly. Um, But yeah, no, it's weird. Like we found that those neighborhoods that those lobster properties tend to be like very community based. So a lot of times they have a brewery in the neighborhood. Um, they have like some sort of like community area within the neighborhood and have like community events. We do really well in those neighborhoods, and so and we tend, when I say do really well, like our strategy is built around that sort of like neighborhood feel because we do both homeowners associations and single family homes. And so when I say we do really well, I mean like we move in and we get what we kind of view as like market share in the neighborhood, right? So we know we can get in, and within the first year we can take 22% or more of that neighborhood on in our, like, we'll bring in 22% of the homes in that neighborhood as well as the common areas. And we consider that like we've achieved market share in that neighborhood because that's about the number of people generally that will hire out landscape work in a neighborhood. So um
Nice. The
yeah, those are,
dominance.
yeah, that's our ideal client type.
Very cool. Um, so let's get into, kind of the next stage, which is pre-sale qualification and discovery. It's a bit more on ideal customer, but I think that a really important point, and it's worth stressing for a few more minutes. Why don't you kind of speak to this portion a bit?
Yeah, so I think, we talked about knowing who your ideal customer is. That's kind of the first step, right? And there's lots of exercises out there. If you search building an ideal client profile or building an ideal client avatar, there's like so many exercises out there to help you do this just by simply like researching the customers you're servicing now, and the ones that are your best customers is a good place to start. That's the first step though, is just identifying that. That's what we've talked about so far. The next step, I think, is like really honing in your targeting of those customers. So generally, this is like a marketing conversation, right? Because you might be thinking like, okay, that's great, but like, so now I've got a bunch of people reaching out to me that like aren't my ideal clients. We'll get to that in a minute and how you filter those out. But you need to get a lot of those people coming in that are your ideal clients. And so that comes down to your marketing efforts and how you targeted them. And that's the
Right.
whole reason we know things like they have a brewery in their neighborhood, or they like microbrews, or they like tend to follow these types of Facebook pages. The reason we dive that deep into our ideal client is so we can target marketing to them. It's like it's very easy then to build a
It sounds
Facebook
like
ad.
hipsters. Is that the one word
Yeah,
that would describe your ideal
yeah,
customer?
like
They wear a lot of
young,
plaid. They buy a lot of
yeah,
beard oil.
but like hipsters who have aged out of like the actual hipster lifestyle and now starting a family and have a house in the
Rich
neighborhood.
millennials.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what it
exactly.
is. Okay,
And
I
the
got it.
key, I forgot to mention, the most important key with our ideal client is like they are busy. Like they're professionals generally, and they do not have time. Because our
Unless
whole,
it's for a good IPA. Sorry to
unless
keep
it's for a
interrupting.
good IPA, yeah. That's how they wind down after their busy day.
Right. Okay.
But they don't have time, and that's our whole offering um, is built around that. And so again, with the targeting thing, first we build all of our advertising to specifically target those people, because now we know where they're hanging out, what they like, all those sorts of things, and you can build digital ads around that. It's a whole separate like thing we could expand on in a future episode. But also like what you're communicating to them is very important. Like what I'm communicating is like, we're going to give you time back. We're going to add hours to your day. We're going to make it super simple for you, not only to like sign up with us. Like if you come, like click on this link in this ad, you're going to have your bid in a matter of minutes rather than waiting like 4 days from the other contractors. And we are
Right.
saying that in the ad. You're not going to have to worry about it from that point on. Like you're just literally going to click some buttons, 3 clicks, you're in, and you're done with your landscape, and like everything's set. So that's the type of message we're communicating, and that's the targeting and messaging part. And then the next step is ultimately setting up your company in a way that you are catching all these leads that come in and sifting through them, right? Like filtering out the bad ones really quick, and keeping the good ones and moving those into the sales pipeline.
Right.
And there's lots of things that you can do for that. Yeah, I know you do this really well. Like, what are some of the things that
Yeah.
you're doing to qualify some of these leads?
Yeah. So that's, we've attracted the leads. We have a list. Now we need to decide which ones we're going to spend more time on, send estimates, and move through our process. And that's what we refer to when we say qualifying.
Mhm.
Uh,
And which ones are you going to say
so
no to? The
yeah,
baloney neighborhoods.
super important. Yeah. Like if you want to, yeah, if you want to make a lot of money, you have to say no a lot. You should be considering that you get paid to say no, is a good way to think of it. So, you could qualify them. You can really run the decision up against your ideal candidate profile, or sorry, damn it, your ideal customer profile. Um, you can pretty much translate everything we're saying into recruiting.
Yeah.
Your ideal candidate, your ideal customer. Okay, so ideal customer. If you have that bulleted out, just say no to anybody that's not that. That's as simple as it is. So you can learn about their budget, and kind of their decision making process. What I look at right off the bat is I know which property type it is. You get into like income and the person. Since I don't do single family residential, I just look at, is this property big enough to suit what we do, and is it close enough to our properties? Anything that's not, that's how simple it is for us to just qualify them out. We'll often like tell them, oh, there's another contractor in town that's great, you could call them. But some of the things you could do is, ask them why they're looking for a new contractor. You could imagine this is like a receptionist or an admin person that's answering an email or picking up or answering the phone. Just ask these questions right off the bat, and really just understand who they are, and do they meet it or not. This is the time where you can resist wasting their time and your time. Like, don't put them through the whole sales process and leave them waiting for a bid and all of that when you know they're just going to turn it down anyway because it's too expensive for them. And you could have figured that out in the qualification phase. So that's what
Totally.
it's all about. Anything to add before I move on?
I I wanted to talk about, you mentioned ask them why they're looking for a new contractor, and that's actually something I learned from you, um, like years ago, and it's been a very very, I almost, like my Canadian almost came out there. I almost said it's been one of the the most valuable little questions to ask at the beginning,
Seems
and
simple, doesn't it?
it's so simple, but like it has so many layers to it. So like, first of all, like if we ask someone, if I say, why are you going out for bid? Why are you looking for a new contractor right now? If they say, oh well, our last contractors just got too expensive for us, like right out of the gates, I'll flat out tell them on the phone, like we likely aren't going to be, if it's strictly price, we're likely not going to be the best company for you. That being said, like if it's just a matter of price for the value you were getting, then yeah, let's definitely continue the conversation. But if it really is just about like price,
Yeah.
we're going to oftentimes be one of the most expensive contracts that you're going to see. You're just going to get
Yeah.
a lot more from us than you're going to get from others. The
And,
other side of it,
and just to interject for a second, I'm going to head on this later, but you can win contracts with the comment, "You were the most expensive bid, but we still chose you." And
totally.
that blew my mind the first time that happened. And then it kept happening because we dialed in all these value add things.
Yeah.
So I know that, you know, people probably think that's ridiculous, but it's absolutely true.
Mhm.
And you can think of place, you know, like Starbucks example again. I got to think of a better analogy, but like why do people go there? Like they can get cheaper coffee elsewhere. That's
Apple.
probably better.
Why do
Yeah.
people buy Apple products?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Three
There's
times as much.
reasons, and there's big pools of customers. You just need to figure out, and that's what we're talking about today: the science of getting to them, and yeah.
Totally.
Um,
The other just really quick thing on that same one is it allows you to know how to position some of your communication further down the sales process too. If they tell you like, well, like the previous contractor we worked with, like we just felt like we were always having to like kind of direct them and tell them what needed done on the property. It's like that in my brain, I'm like, perfect. I know like our offering was built already to handle that, and I'm going to lean into that through the entire sales process.
Absolutely. You ready to get into the three things we mentioned?
Yeah, let's do it.
First one. Okay. First one is a strong proposal document. So proposal, quote, estimate. It can be called many things, but a proposal usually is a little more thorough, and that's what we started calling them after we added all this stuff to it that we're going to go through. So this is where most companies stop, right? Like if one of your customers gets 3 bids or 5 bids or whatever they're going to do, almost all of them are going to just be a page or two. It's going to say the company's name at the top of a pretty blank looking document. It might have their logo if they're really fancy. It's going to have a loosely written scope that says they're going to do a spring cleanup and cut their grass every week and spray a bit of weed control, do a fall cleanup. Then it's going to have a price at the bottom and some terms, and that's it. And that's almost all of your competitors. That's what you are competing with.
Yeah.
So what ours looks like, I'll share this on the screen really quick.
Sweet. While you're doing that, I'll just share. I just recently found one of our old proposals from years ago, like in my Dropbox files. And
Yeah.
it was literally, we didn't even have the decency to pull it into a Word document where we could do some formatting. It was an Excel spreadsheet that
Totally.
we like was literally just some text and some numbers, and then we would export that as a PDF and give it to them. It was terrible. It was garbage. And we wondered
There you
why we
go.
weren't closing any bids.
Yeah, and obviously the ones you're going to close value price a lot because you're not showing them anything else.
Yeah.
You're not telling them anything about your company except how much it costs. So, so yeah, I mean, there is a lot of the good companies out there. There's like 700,000 companies or something in Canada and the US. So there's a lot of the good ones that have a template just like this one that use this, and it's just the vast majority are going to be easy to beat. So a nice cover photo like this of their property, and a nice cover letter. This is a templated cover letter. A link to a video. That's what we'll have later. And about us, showing your team, like who are you? Who is going to be their main point of contact? You could even have crews on here if you have good enough retention. You don't have to change this document every week. Who's working on their property? Little bios. Some testimonials here. Some people will give their contact info. You can include it right on here. This is called, by the way, if you're looking at this is called Pixel Perfect Landscaping. I thought that was good because we're tech guys now and landscapers. So that's why this picture is so crappy. I don't know if that,
I was just going to say,
maybe it's not funny or it's just like a really low res photo that people see, but it's supposed to be pixelated. A property map that shows what you've measured. This really shows that you've counted every blade of grass and your estimate is going to include everything. This property has 213 trees. And if I'm presenting this, I'll say, we've measured your property. You have 116,237 square feet of grass, 213 trees. And people are like, holy crap, this guy's crazy and precise. Your scope and your scope notes. And all of this is a lot to build the first time. You don't have to go this in depth either, but build on it over time. You've got your pricing and however you package your services and then your terms, right? So that's a good proposal. Certainly make it your own, but this will tell them all about your company. And so that's really the purpose of the proposal document, is telling them about your company and your offer. And it's as much a marketing piece as it is a quote. And when those two things are combined into one document, if you tend to work with property managers or you're trying to get in with commercial or condos, that's important too, that they're one document, because if they're separate, you send it to the property manager. One of them has the blank, or the kind of junky looking PDF with a price on it, and then you send marketing material. The property manager can just download the one with a price on it and forward that. So you want them combined so that they always go together, and your marketing stuff never gets left behind. Yeah, I think I covered well what to include there. And this is one of the biggest game changers for us. It really helped build credibility, helped tell the story of our company well beyond the price. Just by looking at it, they're thinking, damn, this guy's going to be expensive, probably.
Yeah. Well, and it justifies the pricing. And I think like that's an important thing to think through as you're building this document, is like, think of the objections that you've heard or that you often get, and then like build that into the proposal document. Like just specifically, like, that they're going to ask about price. So your entire proposal document is like demonstrating why you're more expensive than others. We lean into every page of our proposal document. Like in our follow-up process, I have different like templated emails that I send based on like the different things. So like I have an entire follow-up email afterwards that I know they're thinking about price. I know that like now they've seen a couple other bids and we're the most expensive one. And so I send one again highlighting the map and like you were saying, the measurements that we pulled, and just like, yeah, so one of the reasons we're more expensive is because we're more accurate in our pricing. Like
Right.
many of the other proposals you're looking at, those guys just kind of like drove through your community, looked out their window, went back and just guesstimated some numbers, and then they're going to spend the entire season trying to like cut corners to make those numbers work that they just
Exactly.
ballparked. I know exactly what it's going to cost to provide the level of service that your community requires, and that's what I'm showing you in the initial document. So you can lean into those things and just like try to think through those objections as you're building that proposal document.
Totally. Yeah. Another medium good analogy I have is, if you walk into a really fancy steakhouse or something, that when you open that menu, you're going to be paying $60 for a steak or whatever.
Yeah.
You're not going to open it and it's $8. And the whole place, the way everybody's dressed, the way the servers are holding themselves and serving the customers, everything seems expensive and high value. So that is like filtering people out that do not want to pay for it, because they look in the window and they're like, damn, not there, and they keep walking. That's what we're trying to do in the marketing and qualifying, like, right? So anyway,
even to take that analogy a step further, like the restaurants that have like the lobster, for example, when JB and I go out for a lobster dinner and it just says market price, like,
oh yeah, that's expensive.
hardly. But you know what, like, I'd love to see the metrics on this, but I would bet very few people actually ever ask what the market price is. That's like a filter in itself. It's a qualifying question. Like
Oh
if
dude, I
you're
would
gonna
for sure.
if you're going to ask what the market price is, you're probably not getting that thing because you can't afford it. Like
Yeah.
generally, I would bet most people are just ordering that. The ones who like it's a qualifier,
No,
right?
you're
It's
right.
like,
Yeah, I would probably skip past that. I'm like, I don't,
yeah,
I don't want to
exactly.
ask that, and I know it means it's probably expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one of three, and remember that that represents your company and your offer, because the next one is the site inspection. And so I'll share my screen in a moment on this as well, but this is representing their property. So there was nothing really besides the map I measured in the proposal that was about them or their property. It was about my company and my offer, right? So now you want a part of your process here to include their property. And I'll just bring this up here. So we, of course, use IssueID for this. This is a really powerful use case for IssueID, is winning new contracts. And here we are. I have just a sample, kind of like, you know, on cooking shows where they like take the pie out of the oven and it's already cooked. I have one prepared. Okay, so this document would go along with your proposal, either attached right to it in the PDF or as a separate document if you don't know how to do that, I guess. And this is produced right at the start. So when I meet with the condo board or the property manager on the site, or they don't want to meet with me and I'm going to go check out the site, I'm going to take all these photos while I'm there, and I'm going to produce a document that looks like this. So I'm going to just show you, this is a sample property with real issues loaded into it. Just what this looks like. So you can see some of the things that you're finding. You're finding things like this tripping hazard, identifying that, taking a photo. It's dropping pins on a map. So if it's a large property, the locations are particularly useful. And this is a great way to demonstrate your expertise without, like, I think we've all been there where you're walking around a property and you see things and you hesitate to point it out because it's going to make their contractor look bad, like their current contractor. This
Right.
really helps change the dynamic of that conversation. So
Yeah.
you can say, hey, I found you guys have pests in the birch trees. You guys have birch leaf miner. And it's something I noticed. Here's the treatment for it. You know, it's not too expensive. Or it might even be included in my maintenance contract.
Right.
Yeah.
And to be clear here, when you're doing this inspection, you're not just inspecting the things that you need to inspect in order to put their maintenance proposal together. Because
Exactly.
like a lot of that, and I know from experience, like I could put their maintenance proposal together without setting foot on their site because I can pull all those aerial measurements like we talked about and that sort of thing. You're going above and beyond here and like truly inspecting the overall condition of their property currently, right? Like
Yes.
whether that's like you said, pests that may or may not be addressed with your base level contract, or things that go well above and beyond your base level contract, or things that have nothing to do with the landscaping, like that trip hazard. That might be out of the scope of what your company does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. No, I like
Yeah.
that.
So
That's good.
so you're demonstrating that, hey, I'm going to be your eyes on the property every week. We're your
Mhm.
landscaper. We're not going to just be head down, cut the grass, and leave. We're looking for all of these things, whether we can take care of them or not. This is not meant to just sell you a bunch of enhancements. That's like a benefit of it, but it's not the sole purpose, and that's not the conversation at this stage. A lot of these things I won't even quote at this point. I don't want to spend the time on that. I just want to win the contract, and I'll just use this as showing them what I found. So you inspect the property. I see a dead tree. This one I have a template built into IssueID for. So I snap a photo, asks me if I want to apply a template. Yes, my small tree price, boom, description's on there. Everything's on there. I put all that together and I have that document that I just showed previously. I'll just show you kind of how we work with those really quickly. So I can reorder all of these things manually. What I really like to do is put it in the order that I would recommend they address them. So I'm going to talk them through this in my video that I'm going to make, and I'll say, you know, there's some safety issues on the property. that I would recommend addressing first. You have that birch leaf miner issue on the property. I would address that because eventually that'll kill your trees. We're talking about a few $100s to fix it today, or thousands of dollars to replace your trees. And just talk them through each of these items. I like to just download this as a PDF and merge it with my proposal document and send it along.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can share a link as well, but I'm like old school, I guess.
And this goes so above and beyond what they initially reached out for. Like, I love that because they initially reached out for, like, we need a proposal for our regular landscape maintenance or recurring maintenance. Now you've provided them with a proposal for your landscape maintenance and a site inspection report. Here's what we're seeing at the start of your property. And like, back to that customer, that said, like, hey, one of the reasons we're switching is it feels like we just have to, like, you know, spend all our time kind of coaching and guiding our landscape contractor. And now you show up and you're like, hey, here's all the things I noticed on your property. They didn't even ask you to do that. And they're like, holy shit, like, this is what we've been looking for. We're looking for this guy who, like, is going to be here taking a proactive approach, showing us what they're seeing on the property. And then we can worry about our side of it, which is like, how do we budget these things? What are the things that we want to do first? He's already kind of given us a priority list. So like, what can we afford to do? How can we move forward? And then on your side as the contractor, it's like, you just potentially generated a whole bunch of revenue above and beyond the maintenance
Right.
contract as well. That's like an added bonus of this process.
And you could of course just like take photos on your phone and put them on like a Word document or something and send that along. But then the really nice thing about this is when you win this contract, now you have all of those things already identified on there. Your customer can already see all those things, and the conversation is kickstarted. Like you're already well on your way to discussing property improvements. So I kind of think like if you hired a plumber to come to your house and fix a leak on your shower, but they walked through your kitchen and noticed your kitchen tap was also leaking, wouldn't you like it if they were like, hey, you want me to fix that for $50 just while I'm here? Or would you
Right.
rather they just fix the thing and then 2 weeks later you notice that and then you have to call them? It's just much more proactive to do it this way. And it really gives you, it's like the best way I've ever found to demonstrate my expertise without sounding like a dick or making the other contractor look terrible, which is just not in good taste.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, anything else to say on that one?
I guess I'll say, like, I want to kind of paint a picture because I know you do it a little different than us, but I like what we do at our company with this. So we actually, I am slightly hesitant to even say it, but we don't go do a site inspection for every single property that we're bidding for
Well,
the
you do
commercial.
you do like thousands, like
Right. No, but
homes,
I
of
I
course.
I mean
Yeah.
even for the homeowners associations,
Oh, okay.
we don't go on site to every property first. What I do instead is in my proposal presentation, like, we do all those aerial measurements, we get all the measurements, we demonstrate the value, we do everything that we've talked about so far. But I actually include a video and a description, basically just saying, like, hey, like, here's one of the first things that's going to happen. As soon as you sign up for a contract, you're going to be signed a dedicated account manager. That account manager is going to, first thing on their list is going to be to visit your property, and they're going to do a full landscape site inspection of your property. And I'm showing what you just showed on the screen. Like,
Like a
this is
sample.
going to,
Yeah.
yeah, this is going to be your property. You're going to have your own portal to access all this. They're going to be looking for these types of things, these types of things. So I'm still selling the fact that, like, this is what we're going to do and how
You're
we're going
like
to do it.
saying, some of the things we look for and some of the
Yes,
things we commonly come across are this, and you can then do it
correct.
in a templated, faster way.
Exactly. Now, that being said, for our ideal clients, our lobster clients, I'll always go do a site visit and do the actual inspection and give them one that's like custom to their property and that's included with the proposal. But because we're doing like a higher volume, currently, like, I use that as kind of like a hybrid approach, right? Some of
Right.
them The ones that maybe don't fall perfectly into our ideal client, they're getting more of just the like, hey, here's an example of what we're going to do. And then it is every time the first thing that happens, the account manager gets out there and does that. And oftentimes that's enough to get them to sway them to sign the contract, because they're like, oh, that's exactly what we're looking for. That's
Yeah.
great. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. One. I guess last shameless plug for Issue ID here is that um, one nice thing about this is that all of those photos that you or your manager or supervisor took are in the cloud on your company's account in Issue ID. Then they're not in their camera roll, and then they have to airdrop them to you when they're back at the office, or text
Right.
all the pictures to you, and then you have to get them to your computer and do all this stuff, right? It's a much faster way to produce that document. So moving on, next
Yeah,
one.
let's do it.
All right. So again, that one was about their property. The proposal was about your company and your offer. Now we're going to talk about a personalized video, and that is about the salesperson. And in my case, the salesperson is also the account manager, the person that is going to be the customer's point of contact once they approve the work. And so it's building that personal relationship. It's showing who that individual is, and it's much, ideally that's done in person or on the phone, but sometimes that's not possible, and it's often not possible to reach all of the decision makers in person. Like you'll meet with, in a residential example, you'll meet with the wife, but the husband's not home, and so you're relying on her to then, carry all that information you gave her over to the husband, and things just get lost in translation and ends up being like a game of telephone. It's even worse with condo boards and property managers. So a video is like, they can just send that along and say, here's Jason, worked with him lots. Tell me what you think. Watch this 5 or 10 minute video. He'll quickly take you through the proposal and what they found on your site. So it's really powerful. And the tool we like is called Loom. It's served me very well, so I don't mind promoting it. They don't pay us or anything for this, but they could. But it's really good. It lets you do a little screen recording. I'll show my screen just quick so you can see what it looks like. So mine here is 8 minutes long, and they would you just record it, do a link. It shows your face, in the corner of the screen while you talk through the document. And I would just be scrolling through their proposal, telling them about that, scroll through their inspection, tell them about the things that I found on their property. And it's like, that's my pitch. And then they can pass it along to other people. What do you have to say about that, Jason?
I think it's a great strategy, and we, as you know, we do the same thing with videos. But I wanted to share kind of the progression that we've gone through with videos. So initially, we were doing like a custom video, like you're talking about, for like
Damn you.
every.
Jason's always just a little more efficient.
No, it's not even that we're more efficient. I think in this case, it's just
I think so.
we we used to do, well, I should say I used to do, because I handle all of our like larger accounts, our homeowners associations. I would do a custom video for each one. At the very beginning, first of all, the hardest thing I struggled with was just keeping them somewhat concise. Like I was sending videos sometimes that were like 20 minutes long.
Me too.
And no one's gonna watch a 20-minute video of you talking. And what I would do is I would send in my email the delivery of the proposal. Our proposal is a link, right, to a digital document. So it's a digital link. And then I would have a separate digital link to the video, right? So watch this video, and then also here's the proposal. And I found that everyone was just skipping over the link to the video, or the bulk of people were, and they were going straight to the proposal. So then we learned with those digital proposals, and you showed this in your proposal, we could embed the video into the actual proposal. That was a game changer. All of a sudden, the view rates went way up when it was actually part of the proposal. Because what we found is, like you said, oftentimes the property manager wasn't even forwarding the whole email. They were just grabbing the link to the proposal and just forwarding that. And so the video never even made it to the decision makers. So now when it was in the proposal, we had a higher view rate, but it was still like it's a bit long to go through the entire proposal and all the different things. So then we started chopping it up and doing multiple videos in the proposal. So we'd have a video
That's smart.
that's just highlighting, well, like an introductory video, right? That's the one that like can be really custom, right? Like, hey, board members of One Riverfront,
Oh
and
man,
like you
I'm gonna
could
write that
invent
down. Why didn't you tell me that? How long you been doing that? That's a great
that.
idea.
Yeah, so like that's the custom one, the intro one, but then you can use a bunch of canned videos after that, right? Because then it's like your canned videos could be like, okay, I wanted to walk you through your map, right? And so like the next page, you'll notice your map is here. Here's why this is important. And that's where I lean into the like your other contractors probably just drove through the property. We took very precise measurements, all that sort of stuff. And you can use videos that then are just like the same in every proposal, but you had that custom one to create the connection at the beginning, and then they went through the others. I will say we're still working on like splitting those out even more. We have a lot more video content to make. But the other benefit of doing that is when we get into one of the next sections here with follow-ups, you can reuse a lot of those videos, right? When you do your follow-ups, it's like, hey, don't know if you saw this in the proposal, but like wanted to just highlight like one of the things that's unique about us. And it's the same video that was embedded in the proposal, but you're just like diving deep and highlighting that particular thing. So that's
Dude, it's like you're almost the next iteration for you is like interrupting their like TV broadcast like a terrorist would. It's just like you're Jason telling you, reminding you to sign your proposal.
it's like triggered by like when they mention something about like the yard or something. Like it's listening in on their
Watching the home and
conversations.
garden show or something.
Yeah. Like
Oh man.
Alexa's listening in and the husband's like, man, our yard is just out of control.
If you
Hey,
could, you
we
would.
could,
I know.
oh, I would totally.
Uh, okay, so our proposal's better. We're doing awesome site inspections, and we're sending air quotes personalized videos. So if you get that from a contractor and they are 10 to 15% more expensive than the next guy, and the next guy, you don't know who he is or she is, and you just get a piece of paper that says they're going to cut your grass and here's the price. I mean, who are you going to hire? And you're going to understand very well why this other guy's more expensive. So you can think some customers are still going to turn you down. They're just looking for the cheapest. Perfect.
Yeah,
Those are going to be those are going to turn your proposal down. Those are going to be the ones that don't influence your close rate on the positive side, and it just is what it is. Now you don't, like, you've filtered that customer out. You didn't want to, like, if you didn't have this process, that customer might have taken your bid, and now you're dealing with a customer like that, right? So
yeah,
it's, this whole thing is like another filtering mechanism, so you don't get the contract with the wrong customer and then work for them for a year and then have to fire them or they fire you, right? So yeah, I hope that helps. This
yeah.
is how you add value and perceived value and charge more money.
Totally. I think those are like the three key pillars. We talked about it. Like we talked a little bit at the top about like the ideal client and targeting them and those sorts of things. But the three pillars, I think you really succinctly put them. It's like that strong proposal document which demonstrates, you know, your company and the offering. Like it really it that's what it's meant to communicate, is like
Yes.
about you and your offering. The site inspection, which is about them and their property, and then the personalized video, which is about like their representative from your company, specifically the account manager, salesperson, whatever. I think those are the three key pillars. But this next one I wanted to bring up is like somewhere that even when you've done all those things, if you don't do this next thing, so many people like fail at it.
Let me just say one more thing before you get to that, because
Yeah.
so, like, don't stop with these three.
Oh
These
yeah.
are the three, like, to start with, maybe, or put on your list. But go for a coffee one day or whatever, get in a clear headspace and brainstorm everything. And I like to do that like without limits. Like, just put down the most ridiculous shit you can think of on that list, and
Mhm.
then and just get through it. Like, just commit to making a list of like 30 things or something. And like I came up with, we never did this, but we did condos, right? I came up with an idea that was like, let's put coolers on every trailer, every truck, and fill it with freezies. And then every time we're on site, you know, kids and people, like it's hot outside, they can grab a freezie from our trailer, right? It's just like the stupidest value add. And you know, maybe it would work. An example might be like you've seen barbershops that are like at like cocktail bars or like with beer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, so now you can, you know, you can pay like $60 for a haircut instead of 30, and but you can have a beer while you get your haircut or whatever,
I
and you can like watch the game. It's like,
literally
that's
went
what we're
to
talking about.
one 5 hours ago.
There you go. Yeah, you're looking sharp, buddy, and a little
Thanks.
tipsy because you probably had beers with it. So those are the kind of things, like think of those kind of experiences and just pay attention when you're out there interacting with the world. Like, how did that business take a bit more money from me? Like, why did I pay Starbucks for that damn pumpkin thing or whatever the hell they are, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, don't stop at our recommendations. That's what I wanted to say.
Cool.
Now you can go on.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's a really valid point. And this next one is like the low hanging fruit. Like, even if you haven't done all those things above, this one
Mhm.
is like a low hanging fruit that you should start doing tomorrow. And that is like, you've sent the proposal now. Hopefully, it's a really nice proposal packet or document, like what we just demonstrated. Now it's time to like, you're not done, and everyone thinks they're done here. You have to follow up regularly. Like, you have to be a salesperson. So where the sales part comes in, like, you need to follow up regularly. And to start this off, I want to point to a metric that I got to give JB credit for, because JB points to this all the time. But there was a study done by some people way smarter than us, back in the day, studying like sales processes. And
Speak for yourself.
the two key metrics that I thought were really interesting is only 10% of salespeople, of all the people they surveyed and studied, so only 10% of people make more than 3 contacts. So they follow up, like, that includes the initial proposal send, by the way. So they like send the proposal, then they follow up maybe twice afterwards, and that's it. Only 10% of people go beyond that. But 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. So,
Wow.
like, you're just cutting down your chances significantly of ever closing the sale. And it's simple. Like, think about it when you're making a big decision and you're going through the process. Like, it's not the only thing you're doing. Like, you're doing a bunch of other stuff. And like, generally, if you're considering
It's
three
way
different,
less important to the customer than it is to you, right?
totally.
Like
Yeah.
for you, you're like, I got to close this bid. For them, they're like, I got to get groceries
Yeah,
today and
exactly.
my haircut or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah.
So follow up often, follow up regularly. But the key here, I think, because I think one of the things that one of the reasons people don't often follow up is they think you're just annoying the customer. Well, make it so you're not annoying them. Add value here too. like,
Right.
like I was saying, like, send them a thing that's just about like, hey, like, I just wanted to highlight, like, some of the things you should be looking for this time of year. I know you're considering the proposal right now, but I also wanted to just highlight like this thing. Add value in these things. There's always an opportunity to add value when you're doing these follow-ups. Like, we send a thing that literally, and again, I think we stole this from you, but it's just like, we'll send a follow-up that's like, hey, I know that you went out for bid. You're probably considering like 3 to 5 other proposals other than ours. I created this little checklist for you to make sure that you're comparing apples and oranges, that you can use as you're reviewing
Apples to
these other
apples.
bids. Yeah, apples to apples.
Just to really
Uh,
throw you for a loop, I want you to
yeah,
compare landscapers to plumbers. So here's a
yeah,
comparison
exactly.
sheet.
But like, here's a checklist to follow to make sure that you're doing your due diligence as you check these things. And by the way, like, that checklist is built in a way that it favors our company, right? Because we know we check all the boxes on that checklist. Um,
Yeah, it kind of is and
but
it isn't. Like I have one
yeah.
too, but it's like they are the things you should look for.
Mhm.
And it just so happens that most competitors don't do them. So it's not
Right.
like that magical. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. My point being there is just like, you can make this value, like, a value add in your follow-up process, and it doesn't have to annoy them. And a couple quick like best practices. If you use a CRM, most CRMs, it's really easy to like set yourself like little reminders. If you don't use a CRM, use your calendar. Like when you send a bid, put a couple calendar events in to just follow up with that proposal later.
What are
Um,
I know we're like over an hour now, but I think it's a great topic, and whatever. That's why people can fast forward.
yeah.
So, what are some of your favorite follow up lines? I'll give you one while you're thinking of one. So, right after I send a bid, next day, later the same day, if I sent it in the morning, or next day, I will email them or send them a text, whatever, that says, "What were your first impressions of my bid?" So
Mm, that's
I'm not
good.
asking for, if it's a, which in my case it pretty much always was, a condo board, and I'm only talking to the manager, and they haven't given me the board contact. I'll say, what was the board's first impression? Like they probably haven't, you know, made a decision yet. I'm not going to
Right.
follow up for a decision 12 hours later, but I can still ask, hey, what was their first impressions? And if they say, oh, the first glance price looked a little bit high, or first glance proposal looked super good, we liked all the detail, like that tells you how to navigate the rest. So
Yeah.
do you have any?
I have a couple. One of one of them is just because we send our proposals so quickly. Like again, we're all about like the time thing, right? One of my favorite ones is just, hey, I was just curious, how many of the other bids that you requested have you got so far?
Nice.
Um, that's a good one. And then the probably my favorite one, just because of its effectiveness, is like if I'm not hearing back from them like at all with my follow-ups, not getting any response. Just something to the extent of we call it a breakup email, but it basically is just like, hey, I don't want to keep bothering you. And I haven't heard back, so I'm going to go ahead and close your request out for now. Like that,
Nice.
saying that, like we get the highest response rate from that because people are like, whoa, no, 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 no. Like, sorry, it's just been crazy. Like, we don't want you to. And now I'm like engaged in conversation again. It's like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll keep it open. And now I've got them to respond. So that's one
Nice.
of my favorites.
How about, you haven't heard from them for a while. uh, this is probably only applicable to commercial and condos, but hey, I'm going to be on site on Wednesday, or I'm going to be like nearby on Thursday.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that I could meet with? Like, now
Yeah.
you're on their property and they know you're coming, right?
Yeah.
It just like adds a bit of pressure to get the conversation going.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Mhm.
Yeah. Another kind
Nice.
of best practice I wanted to highlight is, and this has been really good since we started doing this. Again, I got to tip my hat to JB because he helped us implement a lot of these strategies, but use multiple contact methods. So many of us, and like I see it all the time with my sales team, like people default to just email because it's easy, it's quick, and you don't have that like fear of like confrontation or objection or whatever that you do when you get on
They
the
can look
phone.
at it at their leisure. Like, you're not
Exactly.
calling them, you're
Yeah.
annoying. It feels like you're annoying them anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, but the best strategy I've found is to hit them with multiple, as many different contact methods as you can. So email, phone, text are the obvious ones, and do a combination of all those things. Generally, anytime I'm sending an email for my follow-ups, I'm first giving them a phone call. So I will call, and then if I don't reach them, I'll send them an email, like a certain email template. And if I do reach them, I'll send them a different email template that kind of summarizes our call and gives them some more information. And then text is really great too. Ringless voicemail is another one that's been really effective for us. So like you might be thinking like this is a lot of effort, especially if I have a low average job
It
size.
was.
Keep in mind, I have a very low average job size with our residential side of things. And we basically automated the whole process. Like emails go out automatically from Marty. Um, Texts go out automatically. And you're like, well, I can't make a phone call automatically. You're right. But you can assign a task for your CSRs or someone to do that. But we do ringless voicemails also. And what that is like if you've ever gotten a voicemail on your phone, you're like, I didn't even see a call come in from that number. That's a ringless voicemail. All it does is
That's
it
dirty,
dials
Jason.
dials your phone, goes straight to voicemail, and the customer doesn't have to know this, but it's a pre-recorded voicemail. It's the same for every customer. It's not like you're doing it every time. It just goes straight to their voicemail. It's like, typically it's the salesperson saying, "Hey, just wanted to follow up on that proposal that I sent over. Feel free to reach back at this number." You're not using a name, obviously, because it's the same recording that's going to every person,
Sure.
but very effective. And yeah, just another good strategy. And then this is another great place to use more video content, as we were kind of alluding to. Like, snip up those short videos, send them in your emails, and just like keep adding value here.
Yeah.
Offer to review the proposal with them. That's a big one. I always include a meeting link in my emails. Like, hey, if you want to schedule a time for me to come on site, just click this link and pick a time on my calendar.
Really good.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I think it's just important to remember, they engaged you to get a proposal. They're trying to find
Yeah,
a landscaper. Help them
totally.
make that decision and give them all the information that you can. And they're expecting to have a salesperson want to close a sale.
Totally.
Yeah,
And
is
what I
what it
would
is.
say, this is something I tell all my sales team too, is like, you're just trying to get an answer. Like,
Yeah.
the
Get to
ideal,
know.
yeah, the ideal answer is yes, we want to go with you. But like, it's just as valuable to get a no, because now that person, first of all, you can gather feedback on why it was no, and you can improve your process later. But also, like, you remove that person from your list. You no longer need to call that person. You no longer need to email that person. You can focus on the ones that really matter. If you're
That's
never
right.
getting any answer, then you just have a huge long list of people that you always have to follow up with.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of gold in there. That was good. Um, okay, so the last kind of part to this before we'll shut it down is measuring and refining your process. So what that means is just having data on all of these things. Start simple as always. That's starting is better than thinking about it and not doing anything. So start tracking your success rate. Eventually, you could break that. Did I just call it the wrong thing? Your close rate.
Yeah,
Damn it.
close
We
rate.
discussed this before the call. There's like 6 different terminologies that whatever, however many
I tried to
estimates
get
you
ahead of
sell.
it.
Okay. So your whatever it is over time. And eventually, you can break it down further, especially if you have good sales tracking software for it. Like Jason and I both use HubSpot for this. Again, not sponsored. You can break it down by lead type. So you could break it down by resi and multifamily and commercial, and you can break it down every different way you want, job size, etc. But just get started. Collecting feedback from when you lose a job. Try to get honest feedback so you can track that and then improve the earlier stages of your process, improve your marketing, improve the rest of your sales process with that feedback. And I think that's it. Anything to add on that part?
I don't think so. Yeah, it's a key one. Just make sure you're tracking that. Start simple, start easy, but you can get really deep on this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
Cool.
do a speed run.
I was going to say that. Let's do a speed round. Been
All
waiting for
right.
this for an hour and 10 minutes now.
All right. Let's do it. You want to answer first or ask first?
I'm going to answer first.
You're going to
Feeling
answer
good.
first.
Feeling ready.
All right. Okay. Oh man, my phone just notified me it's time to go to bed. It's 8:45. My phone wants me to go to bed.
How old are you?
I'm
No,
old,
I want to go
man.
to bed too. Okay.
All right. Best resource or tool to improve your close rate?
Definitely was IssueID. Just doing inspections, the inspection part of
Mhm.
that, and that's one of the reasons for the idea was to do inspections better on the property. So IssueID is
Cool.
it.
Best advice you've received?
Mentioned a little bit at the top, but Erin from BTA, she wasn't even really my coach. She filled in because my coach was sick one day or something, and it was like some of the most impactful advice I had received. So it just really shifted my mindset, and it was like an entrepreneurial unlock for me when she said, "Think of all the ways you can add value before lowering your prices." So
Nice. Love
thank
that.
you, Erin. Yeah.
Erin's a very smart lady. Biggest blunder you've made or you've seen someone else make?
People not tracking their data, like not data, whatever. So if you don't track it, then the like the longer that you avoid it, the harder it is to look back historically and have clean results when you eventually come around to realizing you should have listened to us. So yeah, I would say not tracking their data and just understanding what impacts close rate. I think most people just think it's price, and most people just assume it's a metric that should always just be as high as you can possibly get it.
Right.
And that's not the case. So
Cool.
yeah.
All right. You do me now.
Well put. Best resource or tool to improve your close rate?
It's going to be a cop out, but I'm going to say IssueID as well. Like, I can't think of another tool. Like, we built it specifically for, like, this is one of the primary purposes of it. So yeah, IssueID.
Oh yeah. Best advice that you received on this?
I can't remember who told me it. I want to default to Mike, who is my coach at BTA, but someone, maybe it was James in the early sessions, but just like operating with an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset.
What does that mean?
So what I mean by that is like you I think with all these things, there can be, if it's the first time you're hearing a lot of these things, a fear around like, oh, I can't turn customers away. I can't say no to customers. I can't like
Oh, I see.
I can't like make these changes. I can't be more expensive. Like there's all these like fear things that pop up in your head. But when you realize like how much opportunity there is out there and how much opportunity, how much better it is to work for like the right types of customers and not have to bend over backwards to like fit into like a budget that just isn't going to work for you where you're providing subpar work that is just like not something you're proud of. When you realize you don't have to do that and you realize that there is an abundance of opportunity out there, like all this other stuff starts to click. So it is very
Yeah.
like mindset sort of thing.
I see. Yeah, at some point there, you're not bending over backwards; you're bending over forwards.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
All right. Best blunder. Sorry, I was
Best
like, "What's the
blunder?
question? The best. What's the best thing you ever screwed up about this? The biggest blunder. I hate that word. We should change that. Best blunder you've ever made or seen.
I think it's kind of similar to yours, but just thinking price is the only thing that drives your close rate. Like
Yeah.
it's the most common one too that I see is just thinking like, oh, my close rate isn't high enough. I need to lower my prices. And there's like I hear that from like really smart people who I respect in business who like everywhere else they're pretty like bulletproof. But then they start talking about like we're not closing enough work, we're not doing this, and they're like, we gotta lower our price. And like, really? Did you try any of this other stuff first? Because I
Yeah.
don't think you need to lower your prices.
And like crutch it up with more leads for now. Like
Yeah,
if you have to, get
yeah,
more leads to get more
right.
sales, and then fix it later. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Before we
Yeah,
close
sounds
out
good.
here, cheers me, and we'll do a
Yes, sir.
little last call.
Cheers.
Uh-huh. Cheers. Awesome. So just a quick recap, like this, we mentioned all the kind of key things like know your ideal client, market to them, and filter for them. Make sure that you're doing that qualification process. Have a really strong proposal document that really displays like who you are as a company and your offering. Um, do those proactive site inspections. That's a really cool thing that like again no one else is doing, so you're going to stand out, like you're going to be way above the other, and that's really going to like give their property a chance to shine in this process. And then add your personalized video content to highlight you or your reps or whoever it may be, and make sure you're following up and measuring all of this stuff as it goes. So yeah, I would like just kind of strongly encourage everyone listening to audit your sales process this week and pick something that you can implement now, like something, even if it's something small, like just pick something, get it implemented. Let us know how it goes. I'd love to hear about it. Hopefully it's a success. And let us know what you thought about this episode. Specifically, I wanted to give a quick shout out. We do a blog post with every one of these episodes as well. And we do like an email reminder when these episodes go out. So if you want to head over to issueid.io, go to the blog, you'll see our blog there. You'll also see an opportunity to join our email list there so you can get reminders about our episodes. We are on YouTube as well. That's where this video content is. You're probably watching it there. But if you're listening, head over to YouTube, search the Beer Garden. And then we have a Facebook group that's really cool too, called the Beer Garden Landscape Leaders Roundtable. And this is where we can dive deep, really hoping to like get that Facebook group more active now that we're back into the season here. And so Brandon and I are going to be on there pretty regularly engaging. So like throw some questions up there. Like this is a great opportunity for us to connect with you outside of these episodes and outside of the comments thread on the episodes. And yeah, if you have some questions, throw it in there and we'll answer them.
Awesome. Thanks
Anything
a lot, Jason.
to add?
Nothing to add. You did such a good job today. Great work, Jason. 10 out of 10.
Hey, you too, man.
What's your beer rating? Almost ruined the whole episode right at the last second.
I know.
It's still a medium good, like a 6 out of 10. Yeah,
6 out of 10 still. This is a really good, if you like hazy IPAs, I would never recommend this for you personally, but if you like hazies, this one's a really good one. Again, it's the Outer Range Colorado Cuckoo, I think is how you say it. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's really good.
Oh shit. Wow.
Yeah, I like this one.
Okay. Well, great chatting today.
Yeah, good chatting with you. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for checking out the Beer Garden.